Hi, I'm Henry Cameron Allen. I'm the founder of the Lost Travelers Club, and this is the LTC Peregrine DadCast. This is not just for men, it's for anyone who identifies as a peregrine or someone who's outlived a child. We use the word peregrine because it's a universal symbol. The peregrine falcon is native to every continent except Antarctica. It's everywhere humans are. And in most cultures, it represents courage, resilience, strength. These are all things that we as peregrines must tap into to get on with our lives and find a renewed sense of purpose. That is a subject that comes up a lot. And there are small communities that have gathered of parents who have outlived their kids, but it's kind of elusive. One of the other things I appreciate about the peregrine symbol is that the peregrine is a solitary bird. We find ourselves in a state where friends and even family sometimes back away, and we feel very much alone in our grief journey. Our message at the Lost Travelers Club is that no one is alone. We're all going through our grief journey in our own unique ways, but also there are common factors that we all share. I think a lot of us lose for a time our sense of purpose. And especially in my case, I only had one child, and Cameron was everything to me. He was the core of my identity. Being a parent is the core of your identity. And when that is plucked out of the equation, who are we now if not parents? My grandmother used to say, you're a parent if you're parenting. And so I feel like my son is still with me in a different way. The human spirit, the soul, if you will, is something that's eternal. We know from the science of physics that everything is frequency. Everything is energy. And those things can't be created or destroyed. They just transmute. They change their form. And so it's up to us who are still in the physical frequency to look for and find where the form, where the frequency of our children still live. And for me, it is inside my heart. My son is very much alive in my heart, and we are a team. We are connected forever. And every time I talk about Cameron, every time I share his story, every time I think about him, he's with me. He's there. He's very much alive. And so I invite other peregrines to come into the conversation about how do we find our children again. My dream life is very vivid and very productive. And I had a dream several months ago that a peregrine falcon flew down out of the sky, landed in front of me, and looked up and said, "It's time." And what I took that to mean, that simple message, "It's time," is that it's time that we, as parents who have outlived our kids, form an identity. The word widow says volumes. The word orphan says volumes. If you have outlived your parents or your partner, you're a widow or an orphan. And if someone asks you, "Oh, are your parents still living?" you can say, "No, I'm an orphan." And enough said. You don't have to say anything else. It's universally understood what that means. The same with widow or widower. Are you married? Well, I'm a widow. I'm a widower. Enough said. But historically, peregrines have had to crack open our chests and pour out our most sacred, personal, unique pain and pour them out on the table, all those feelings, and try to invite people in to understand something that we ourselves are still struggling to understand. And so peregrine is an elegant word. It's a universal symbol. It lives on every continent. It's native to every continent on the planet except Antarctica, where there are no people. And in most cultures, it represents courage, resilience, and strength, which are all things that we have to tap into to move forward on our grief journey and through our lives, to feel like we can function again. Something as an internationally certified grief counselor, grief and survival, is that I hear over and over and over again peregrines who have lost their sense of purpose. They don't know how to progress forward in life with this new identity. And so Peregrine works, and I invite you to use it for yourself. If you are a father or a mother, there's no gender to Peregrine, who's outlived your child, and you're on the journey and striving toward wholeness again, because it does feel like a piece of our soul is missing. For me, I sway away from the word loss and the word death, and bereavement as well. I don't feel like a bereaved parent. I don't feel like my son is lost to me, like a scarf or a pair of readers or, or a set of keys. I know precisely where he is. He lives right here in my heart. His remains are here in his urn. I have a shrine here that is devoted to Cameron. He is with me at all times, inside of me. But I also have a physical representation outside of myself, and that really helps. I know that some bury their children, some cremate their children, some make beautiful paperweights and jewelry out of the ashes of their children. And so there are many, many ways to carry your child in a physical representation with you. That can be very healing and very helpful. If one has buried a child, there are other ways to do it. Build a shrine, take some of their treasures, or the things that, if they were born sleeping, that were gifts to them that would have become treasures. Find treasures for yourself. Go out into nature and find stones or beautiful dried leaves or shells or pieces of wood that have a certain frequency. I'm working on a book right now called Quantum Grief that takes us on a journey through 12 dimensions of grief. One of the things that I have found is that there's a vast difference between mourning and grieving. Mourning is a temporary state. It's passive. There's nothing you can do with it but mourn. And there are people who mourn for a few months, people mourn for a year, some mourn for 10 years or more and have a really hard time breaking through the mourning dimension. I call it dimension 0. It's like the Big Bang, which is right after your child is gone. And you're numb and you don't know how to feel. You don't know what to do. And in a couple of episodes ago, I actually read episode 0, chapter 0 of the book that I'm creating. It's also going to be a video series, an animated video series, short videos, 5 minutes apiece, and those will be available to members of the Lost Travelers Club. If you've not been to our website, please go and become a member. It's free, and there are going to be resources and communities forming for members of the Lost Travelers Club. The other part of being a peregrine is that it's a solitary bird. And I think that many of us have felt alone. We have felt that nobody could possibly understand what we're going through. Like pregnancy and birth, the passing experience, while there are common factors like pregnancy and birth, each one is unique, and we cannot define ourselves in a large sense around that identity. But what we can do is say, I'm a peregrine, and somebody will ask, well, what does that mean? That means I've outlived my child. Enough said. It works for me, and other people are picking it up. So consider that if you're looking for a sense of identity around this. The other thing that's come to me recently that I think is really fascinating and helpful, one of the things that I specialize in as an internationally certified grief and survival counselor, is men's grief, because we are still caught in the stigma of the world. I mean, this is global, where men are still expected to swallow our feelings, to not express how we feel. And we feel as deeply as anyone. And it's hard to find community that accepts that and understands that. Women, generally speaking, will be expressive. They will gather in groups. They will talk about their journey and their grief, and they'll find support. There are pages and pages of parental grief support on Facebook and social media. What I've found in those groups, while sometimes they are a way to connect with others in an understanding about what this means and what this journey is for men, most of these groups are not specific to men, and they are 86 or more % women members, which also makes men, I think, feel a little isolated. A lot of memes that you see around the passing of children, grieving parents, are mother specific. And that's a really hard thing for men to swallow. And if you're a woman, if you're a mother watching this, please hear that. I don't suggest that a mother's grief is different in a larger sense, or more or less intense than a man's. It deserves a spotlight. It deserves that vehicle for expression and community. Men don't really have it at the level that we are finding it at the Lost Travelers Club. Not that I've experienced anyway. There are men's groups, there are support groups and things like that that are men specific, but they are few and far between. Most of them are local. We are global. And so we're finding the common threads in every culture, in every socioeconomic status, in every expression of identity, ethnicity, culture, that geography, history, that allows us to weave whole cloth. We identify common threads and weave them together into whole cloth. And for me, that is what the Lost Travelers Club is about. It's not really a support organization. There are many support organizations for bereaved parents. There are many support organizations for parental grief and grief in general. But for men's grief, that's what this podcast, this DadCast, is about. It's about talking about grief from a men's perspective and finding our way together. Our tagline for the Lost Travelers Club is surviving parents getting there together. It used to be parents of child loss, but then it occurred to me that I don't feel like I lost Cameron. He's very much alive here. And I know precisely where he is. So it doesn't feel like loss to me. It's more that we are surviving our experience. And so surviving parents are peregrines. Another thing that's occurred to me recently was that a father's grief seems a lot like I imagine pregnancy might feel. I'm one of those men who always said, if I could bear children, if I could carry a child in my body, I would. But we aren't given the gift of a physical womb. And so what I've been sort of exploring is the soul womb of men. I think that we experience a lot of similar things as our female counterparts in life and also in the world. We experience morning sickness, of course, MOURNING, morning sickness. We feel like we can't get out of bed. We feel heavy. We feel all of those things, nauseous sometimes too. We feel triggered. There's a kick inside, as I imagine a mother might feel with a child in her womb. There's something in our gut that is kicking at us from the inside. And sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it's just fascinating. We have cravings. I know a lot of men who are peregrines who indulge in probably more alcohol, more food, even drugs that help numb this experience because it is so deep and so sublimated within us. So those cravings are there as well. Vulnerability. I remember the journey of pregnancy with my partner at the time, and there was a deep vulnerability, which I certainly feel as a male peregrine, as a papa peregrine. The anticipation of something. It could be the anticipation of reconnecting with our purpose. It could be the anticipation of what's next for me if I don't have this anymore, when it's the core of our identity. There's a period of incubation that is akin to pregnancy, where time passes and something is moving in us. And the difference there is that we don't have a sense of when the birth is going to happen, right? Or the rebirth. There's an embracing of our emotional changes that we struggle with as well. We feel things that we've never felt before. There's no handbook to talk about this for men. There's the wonder, as I said, of feeling something alive inside of you. Many men, because we are taught to be closed, we have a hard time connecting with that feeling of aliveness inside of us after the passing of a child. There's a deep bond that we still have with our child as well. That, of course, is also formed in the womb, in the physical womb, with the mother. We experience that spiritually. We experience that emotionally, that there is a bond still forever with our child. We'll never forget our children. Of course not. And so forming or reforming that bond in a different way, finding ways to do that is extremely helpful. Body awareness. When we're indulging in things that are helping us, as a crutch to get through the hardest days, we start to notice that we're gaining weight. We start to notice that we're maybe not as physically active as we used to be. We notice that we don't feel as physically strong as men. And so body awareness is part of this journey, as it is for women who are pregnant. There's a deep sense of transformation. And I think that my experience as a father and going through that pregnancy journey with my partner, with my son's mother, that I watched her transformation. I heard her. I listened about her, changes of self, changes in self-identity, going from a single woman to a married woman to a mother. And that period of transition while the child is in gestation is a period of transformation. You're never the same again. And it's no different for men. And of course, this also applies to women, but this is, again, the DadCast, which is specifically about the men's grief journey. How do we make sense of it? How do we equate? How do we relate to that transformation in ourselves? What are we transforming into at different stages during this period? And then there's the birth. And for me, that was a rebirth. It was a rebirth of myself with a capital S. I was reborn into the world after Cameron passed as a different man. I'm still me. I'm still an inherently happy person. I lost my sense of joy for a very long time, and I used to be joyful. I invested all my joy in my son. And so when he left the physical, so did my joy. It went with him. And it wasn't that it's not that I became a depressive person. I'm not. I can't be. It's not part of my makeup. But joy eluded me the way that other people feel joy. I found great satisfaction in being of service to others, especially other peregrines. I started a foundation in my son's name with him while he was still here, called the Brain Candy Project, which was a support system for parents who were living still in hospitals with their critically or terminally ill children. And that filled something in me. That provided me with a sense of purpose. The Brain Candy Project is still alive. We're not doing that mission anymore, but it transformed like I did, and I have over the course of 15 years. It transformed into the Lost Travelers Club. And that happened because I was feeling lost on this grief journey. I didn't know which way to turn. I didn't know who I was becoming. And so once I identified that this is a journey, not a destination. That we are, all of us, lost travelers, not only peregrines, but also in life. I mean, after the pandemic sort of subsided a bit, everything changed. We had to think about recreating a world post-pandemic. We were pioneers all over again, right? So the irony in the name Lost Travelers is that we're all going to end up somewhere eventually, right? But we are traveling. And again, peregrines are solitary birds. We travel alone. And there's a certain solace in that, I think. But there's also, I think, a great importance that is being missed in the message to men that you need not travel alone all the time. That there are places like the Lost Travelers Club and our Fellowship of Fathers, which is our first project, is this DadCast, to come together. As I was saying, this is not a support group. This is an empowerment group for men to reconnect with a sense of purpose, to rebirth themselves, with a capital S, into the world. And that's exciting to me. And so I just wanted to share that today. I'm going to keep it short, but I wanted to share that this is something that's been on my mind, is this soul womb of men. And I want to know what you think about that. I want you to leave comments and share if that's something you can relate to. Is it something that is so way out there that you cannot even begin to grasp? Am I wrong? I want to hear from mother peregrines as well. I don't mean any disrespect. I don't mean to diminish or minimize the experience of either women's grief or women's pregnancy and birth. I have deep, deep respect for it. But I also feel that many, many male peregrines are feeling lost on this journey. And I'm here to be a help. I'm here to be a helper. I invite you to join me. I invite you to become part of this community. People come and go. Again, membership in the Lost Travelers Club is free. Just go to losttravelers.club and become a member. We meet every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I live in Spain, and so that's a little later for me, but it's great to have a consistent go-to. And even if there's nothing to talk about, holding space for one another matters. And to know that space is being held for you in your solitude, in your grief journey, that really helps. The Facebook groups that are specifically for men are wonderful. They're great places to touch base, to land as a peregrine and say, guys, I'm going through a really hard time. There are many new peregrines there who have just experienced the passing of their children by accidents, by suicide, by overdose, by illness. And the courage that it takes for a man to express how he is feeling in the moment, whether it's been a minute or whether it's been a decade, or in my case, 15 years or more. Facebook and social media is a wonderful way to touch base. And I have found that for me, it was not enough. I found myself being more of a comfort than I was able to get comfort. Helping others through a rough spot rather than really being able to see eye to eye and empower one another to find a sense of purpose. Again, I think that finding a sense of purpose as an individual is only enhanced and made better by finding a sense of community around that purpose. And so that's what we're about at the Lost Travelers Club. We are channeling our grief. We're finding ways to actively grieve as men, channel our grief into goodness in the memory and in the name and in partnership with our kids who are now living in us, in our soul womb, versus physically outside of us. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. That does help the algorithms, I'm finding. And if you would like to be a part of this, if you want to be a co-host here on the DadCast, please reach out. Would love to have this full of wonderful peregrines that are speaking truth, are finding community, finding a brotherhood, and sharing publicly. Because sharing publicly effortlessly, automatically gives permission to any other man out there who doesn't feel that he can. He doesn't feel that people will listen. People are listening. We're growing followers every day. And that's exciting. That means something. We're making an impact. So if you, as a peregrine, would like to make an impact with us, with the Lost Travelers Club, you don't have to show up on the DadCast. The first half hour or 40 minutes or so, we're sharing where we are. We are providing that support if you need it. If it's not enough and you need one-on-one counseling, we offer that for free for members, for men and women. My focus is mainly on men's grief, but not exclusive to it. So if you are looking for counseling, please consider me. It's a free way to engage with someone who is trained, someone who has experienced it. That's the other thing that when I was looking for counseling, I found really hard, was that most of the mental health workers out there who I would have gone to and have benefited from have not been peregrines. There's an empathy that cannot exist unless you have been through the passing of a child and survived it and are moving through your life on that journey. And those of us who have been here longer, we've collected some wisdom that hopefully will help remove some of the stones out of your path as a man trying to find your way. We have started a mamaship circle as a companion to the fellowship circle, and that is also meeting at noon separately on Eastern Standard Time. So if you are a mama peregrine and you would like to be part of the mamaship circle, please reach out on our website. There's a link there, and the woman who is running that program, who is also certified as a facilitator. And if you're a father peregrine, if you're a papa peregrine and you're looking for community and you're looking for engagement, here we are. All right. Thanks for joining us every week. And chins up, guys. Your wings will heal and you will find a way forward and up. Maybe not out. I don't think there's any healing from this. But it does get easier. And it does get better. And in my experience, it gets better when you find community. All right. Thank you for being here. Go to losttravelers.club, subscribe, like, comment, and join me. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.